I learned the sound of betrayal long before I learned its name. It was not a scream or a slammed door. It was the careful way my husband, Raghav, began placing his phone face down on every surface, the way he washed his coffee mug twice, as if erasing fingerprints, the way the house felt occupied even when we were alone. On the morning everything began, the city was rinsed clean by rain, the windows fogged with a milky blur, and the old clock above our kitchen door ticked with the patience of something that had outlived many promises. I sat at the table, fingers wrapped around a cooling cup of tea, watching steam curl like questions I didn't want to ask. Raghav moved through the kitchen with exaggerated normalcy. He hummed an old tune from college, the one he used to sing when he was nervous about exams. That hum landed in my chest like a pebble dropped into water, small, but it rippled. "Late again," he said, glancing at his watch. "Client meeting." He kissed my forehead, a light touch, a stranger's politeness. The door closed behind him. The house exhaled. I didn't follow him. I didn't check his phone or search his pockets. Suspicion, when handled roughly, shatters. I needed it intact. Instead, I cleaned. I wiped the counters until they gleamed. I folded laundry into perfect rectangles. I lined up shoes by size. Order calmed me. Order gave me the illusion that something, somewhere, was still under my control. In the afternoon, the power went out. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof like impatient fingers. I lit a candle and sat by the window, watching our neighbors move like silhouettes behind their curtains. Everyone else seemed to be living ordinary lives. Everyone else seemed unaware that my marriage had grown teeth. The call came at 4:17 p.m. It wasn't Raghav. It was a woman. "Is this Mira?" she asked. "Yes." There was a pause, as if she were choosing between truth and convenience. "I found your number in my brother's phone. He's been in an accident. You're listed as emergency contact." My name doesn't live in many phones, certainly not in the phone of a stranger's brother. "Which hospital?" I asked. She told me. I didn't cry. I didn't ask questions. I put on my shoes, still neatly aligned, and stepped back into the rain. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and wet clothes. The waiting room television played a soap opera on mute. I gave Raghav's name at the desk. The nurse raised an eyebrow, then pointed me down a corridor painted a shade of green meant to calm people who were unraveling. He sat on a bed, a bandage wrapped around his forearm, his face pale but intact. Beside him stood a woman with tired eyes and a posture that suggested she had learned how to brace for impact. This, then, was the silhouette in my house. "Mira," Raghav said, standing too quickly. This is an accident, I know." The woman shifted. "I'm Anika," she said softly. "I'm sorry." I looked at her hands. They trembled, not with guilt. No, guilt shakes differently, but with fear. "We should talk," Raghav said. "Later," I replied. My voice surprised me. It was calm, polite. "Right now you should rest." He searched my face for cracks and found none. At home that night, the silence sharpened. It pressed against my ears until I could hear my own pulse. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan as it carved slow circles through the dark. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates. I didn't pack a bag. I made a list. Not of his lies, of mine. The next morning, I called Anika. She answered on the second ring, breathless. "Hello?" "I'm not calling to fight," I said. "I'm calling to understand." There was a long exhale. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "At first, he said he was separated. He said you lived abroad." I smiled at the wall. Raghav had always been creative. "Would you meet me?" I asked.
We chose a cafe halfway between our neighborhoods, neutral ground, the kind of place where secrets dissolved into background noise. Anika arrived early. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. "I won't pretend I'm innocent," she said before I sat, "but I won't lie either." "Good," I said. "Neither will I." We spoke for 2 hours. About timelines and half-truths, about promises made in whispers, about how easy it is to believe someone who wants the same things you do. When we finished, the table between us was cluttered with empty cups and clarity. "He's been taking money," Anika said quietly. "From me, small amounts, for emergencies. I thought I was helping." That was the final tooth. At home, I opened the file drawer Raghav never touched. He said paperwork bored him. I said nothing and organized everything. I found receipts, transfers, patterns. I found leverage. Over the next week, I became invisible. I cooked, I smiled, I asked about his arm. I listened. Raghav relaxed. Men often do when they believe the storm has passed. On Friday evening, I suggested a neighborhood meeting, a casual thing, tea, snacks, conversation. The rains had damaged the community generator, and people were anxious. Raghav agreed. He always liked appearing helpful. By 7, our living room filled with neighbors. The clock ticked, cups clinked, laughter floated. I stood and cleared my throat. "Thank you for coming," I said. "Before we talk about repairs, I wanted to share something important." Raghav frowned. He hadn't been briefed. I connected my phone to the television. Spreadsheets appeared, dates, amounts, names. A murmur moved through the room like wind through dry leaves. "These are funds taken from multiple households," I said calmly, "under the pretense of community improvements. I recently discovered the account they were redirected to." I didn't look at Raghav. Someone gasped. Another neighbor stood. "Are you saying?" "Yes," I said. "I am." Raghav's face drained of color. "Mira, stop." "I will, after I finish." I explained, not emotionally, precisely. The silence that followed was not fog, it was clarity. Phones came out. Calls were made. When the authorities arrived, Raghav didn't look at me. He looked at the door as if it might open into another life. It didn't. Later, when the house was empty again, I sat at the kitchen table. The clock ticked. The candle burned low. The silence returned, but it had changed. It no longer had teeth. It was simply space. And for the first time in a long while, I breathed.